Okay, so you're prepping for this import-export manager interview. It's in the furniture, carpets, and lighting equipment industry. It's a lot to say, but it's really a cool field with a lot of opportunity. We've got these guides from RoleCatcher to help us break down what you need to know to stand out in this interview.
Yeah, it's more than just knowing about furniture. You're going to be managing all these goods across international borders,
Hmm.
coordinating teams and figuring out all the rules, all while, making sure that shipments are on time and in great condition.
Oh, for sure. So it's a really in-demand field, but we're here to help you nail the interview. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI is really useful because it can look at the job description you're targeting,
hmm
and it'll show you what skills they're actually looking for.
Yeah, it's almost like having a personal word map for your interview. You can change your resume and even your answers to be exactly what they're looking for. So before we get into specific questions, though, let's talk about what the interviewer is really trying to find out about you.
Okay, so it's like reading between the lines, right? Not just what you've done, but who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So let's look at some of RoleCatcher's sample questions, and I'll explain how to approach each one with that in mind. So one of the first questions you might get is, what motivated you to pursue a career in import-export management within the furniture, carpets, and lighting industries?
Right, so they're not just asking why you want to move furniture around the world. What's the real question there?
I think they're looking for passion, but they also want to know what you like about these industries. Like, is it the craftsmanship or the global supply chains or the chance to, bring beautiful and useful pieces to people's homes? This is your chance to connect your personal interest to what the company does.
Yeah, it's about showing them you've done your research
Yeah.
and you're not just applying to any job.
Right. And you've thought about this specific company and this specific industry. Now be ready for a follow-up question that goes even deeper. Like,
Oh.
what are some trends in these industries that you find particularly exciting?
Oh, that's a good one. So it's not just about what's popular now, but thinking about the future too.
Exactly. So maybe you've read about the growing demand for sustainable furniture or the impact of technology on supply chain management. This is where you can show them you're not just keeping up with trends, but really thinking about how they'll change the industry. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI is great. It analyzes the job description, so you can identify the specific keywords and trends that this employer's most interested in.
So you can really nail your answer. It's like having a cheat sheet for that company. Let's go to another question. How do you stay up to date with changes in international trade regulations and policies?
Hmm.
This one seems kind of scary.
It can be, yeah. But they don't expect you to be a lawyer. They just want to see that you're taking the initiative to stay informed. Because the landscape is constantly changing.
So listing every trade agreement isn't the point. It's about how you stay informed.
Exactly. This is where you can talk about the specific resources you use, like industry publications, online forums, professional organizations. Maybe you even attended a recent webinar on the latest import regulations. The point is to be specific and show that you have a system for staying up to date.
Yeah, and I bet they'll go deeper with a follow-up question like, can you give a recent example of a regulatory change that impacted your work and how you adapted to it?
Yeah, they want to see how you handle real challenges. So share a story about a time you adjusted to a new regulation. Did you renegotiate with the supplier? Or find a new shipping route? The point is to show you can solve problems and adapt to change.
It's about handling those curveballs that are bound to come up in international trade. And again, RoleCatcher's AI can be so helpful here. It can look at other job descriptions and predict the kinds of follow-up questions you might get, so you can practice for those scenarios.
It's like having a crystal ball for your interview. All right, let's try another question that's bound to come up. What experience do you have managing logistics and supply chain operations for furniture, carpets, and lighting products?
Time to shine.
Hmm.
This is your chance to show them you've got what it takes. But where do you even start with a question like that?
Well, don't just list all your responsibilities. They want to know how you've actually used your skills and knowledge to get results. So think of specific projects where you had to work with shipping, customs, inventory, all those parts.
So instead of just saying, I manage shipping logistics, you could say something like, I put in place a new inventory tracking system that reduced shipping delays by 15%.
Yeah.
Numbers are powerful.
Absolutely. If you can measure the impact you made, it makes a huge difference. Now they might ask, what's your experience with using logistics software or platforms? And here you can name specific programs you know, especially if they're mentioned in the job description.
Right, because it shows you've already got experience with their tools. And RoleCatcher's AI can point out those programs for you, so you can really highlight them.
It's all about tailoring your responses to the employer's needs. And speaking of tailoring, One of the hardest things about this job is managing relationships across cultures. So be ready for a question like, how do you manage relationships with international suppliers and buyers?
This is more than just being good with people. It's about understanding different cultures and building trust with people from all over.
Exactly. So have a story ready about a time you navigated cultural differences or language barriers to build a good working relationship. Maybe you had to change your communication style depending on the culture. Or you learned about a supplier's customs to build a connection.
It's about showing you can bridge those differences. And I bet a common follow-up is, how do you handle disagreements or conflicts with suppliers or buyers?
For sure, conflict happens in any job, but especially when you're working internationally. Here's where you can show off your diplomatic skills. Did you ever help resolve a dispute between a supplier and a buyer? Or did you have to find a creative solution to a logistical problem that could have stopped a shipment? You want to show that you can stay calm, professional, and find solutions in tough situations.
Right? It's about showing you can handle those bumps in the road. International trade can be pretty unpredictable.
It really can. Speaking of choppy waters, they might also ask, what experience do you have managing budgets and financial forecasts for import-export operations? They want to know you can manage money well.
Time for those spreadsheets. What are they looking for here?
They want to see your experience with analyzing costs, making budgets, and creating forecasts. Did you ever negotiate better shipping rates to save the company money? Or did you accurately predict the demand for a product and increase profits? Be specific and use numbers to show your impact.
Increased profitability sounds way better with a percentage attached. And I think they'd usually follow up with, how do you ensure cost efficiency in import-export operations?
You're right. It's about finding a balance, keeping costs down while still maintaining quality and delivering on time. You can talk about your strategies for negotiating with suppliers, finding the best shipping routes, and streamlining internal processes.
It's about thinking about the big picture, not just the bottom line. RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer here too. It can analyze salaries for similar positions in your area, which is useful information when you're talking about your salary expectations.
Knowledge is power when it comes to negotiation. Now let's not forget the legal stuff. Be ready for a question like, how do you ensure compliance with international trade regulations and customs requirements?
This is where you show you're not just knowledgeable, but also detail-oriented. No one wants a shipment stuck in customs because of a paperwork mistake.
Exactly. This is where you talk about how you make sure everything's done right. Do you have a checklist for import-export documents? Do you do regular checks to make sure labels are correct? Show them that you're not just aware of the rules, but you have systems to prevent costly mistakes.
You're showing them you're a stickler for the rules.
Mm-hmm.
No cutting corners. Again, RoleCatcher's AI can help you get ready for those follow-up questions. They might give you a scenario like, can you describe a situation where you had to resolve a compliance issue?
That's a good one. Have a story ready about how you handled a compliance problem. Did you work with customs officials to clear a shipment that was missing documents? Or did you find a labeling error and have to recall a product? The key is to show you can handle these situations calmly and effectively.
It's all about showing you can solve problems and keep things running smoothly.
Right.
Okay, let's shift gears to a question that really tests your strategy. How do you manage risk in import-export operations, particularly in volatile markets or regions?
This is where you show your ability to plan for challenges. International trade is risky. There's currency fluctuations, political instability, natural disasters. It's a lot.
They want to see you thinking ahead.
Right. So talk about how you assess risk. Do you keep an eye on political and economic conditions in your key markets? Do you have backup suppliers? Have you put in place strategies to deal with currency risks? The more you show you're thinking about these things and have plans, the more confident they'll be.
And they might ask, what's your experience with working in mention a specific volatile region relevant to the job? So if the job is in Southeast Asia, be ready to talk about those risks.
Right. You can impress them with your knowledge of specific markets and how you adapt your strategies. Now let's move on to a question about your vision. How do you develop and execute import-export strategies that align with overall business objectives?
This is about more than just doing tasks. It's about thinking strategically and contributing to the company's goals.
Exactly. Describe how you gather market information, collaborate with others, and use key performance indicators, all to make sure your import-export strategies support the company's growth and profit. Maybe you found a new market and created a plan to expand there. Or maybe you made the import process for a key material more efficient, which saved money and increased production. Connect your actions to real business outcomes.
You're not just moving products, you're moving the needle. And I bet they'll follow up with, can you share an example where your import-export strategy directly contributed to achieving a business objective?
It's a great chance to share a success story. Be ready to talk about a project where you helped achieve a measurable result. The more specific and quantifiable your examples are, the better.
It's not just about what you did, but the results. That's what matters. And RoleCatcher's AI can be super helpful here. It can analyze your past experiences and help you figure out which success stories will really resonate with this employer.
It's like having a personal branding expert help you tell your story. So those are just some examples of the types of questions you might get. But if you understand what they're really asking and use RoleCatcher's AI to tailor your answers, you'll feel confident and prepared walking into that interview.
Yeah, it's all about showing them you're not just qualified, but you're excited about this industry and you have the skills to succeed. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, where we'll talk about career paths and certifications, let's take a minute to think about how RoleCatcher's AI can help you perfect your answers and get ready for those tough follow-up questions.
It's like having a secret weapon in your interview toolkit. Their platform is amazing. You can put in the job description, and it figures out the keywords and sales.
Oh, so it's not generic feedback then. It's really about this one employer.
Yeah, exactly. And then it gives you feedback on your practice answers. So you highlight the best parts of your experience, and your answers really fit what the employer wants.
It's like having a personal coach. Okay, so we talked about questions. Now, what about career paths? RoleCatcher's Career Guide talks about the typical stages, starting with the Import-Export Coordinator.
That's a great place to start. You can learn the basics and get some experience.
And then move up to Specialist, then Senior Coordinator, and finally Manager, like a roadmap for your career.
Yeah, and they even give you examples for each stage, so you can see what the responsibilities and skills are like. It's really helpful for planning your long-term goals.
You can see where you want to be in 5 or 10 years. You could even use this in the interview to show you're ambitious.
Oh, definitely. Like saying, I'm excited about growing with this company and I see myself becoming a senior coordinator or even a manager in the future. That always makes a good impression.
It shows you're serious about your career. Speaking of leveling up, the guide also talks about certifications.
Those can really help your resume and open doors.
Yeah, they show you're dedicated to your career. And you have expertise.
They're like proof that you're serious about this work.
They mentioned the Certified International Trade Professional, CITP, and Certified Supply Chain Professional, CSCP. Those are big ones.
They're a good investment. And if you're already working on one, mention it in the interview. It shows you're always learning.
Like you're not just okay with how things are.
Exactly. It shows a growth mindset, which is really important these days.
Okay, so we talked about interview questions, career paths, and certifications. What's the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
Well, you've got the information and the tools. Now it's time to use them. Preparation is key. Use RoleCatcher to make your application perfect. Practice those interview questions until you know them inside and out. And most importantly, show your passion.
Exactly. Enthusiasm and a desire to learn will take you far. And here's something to think about. The world of global trade is always changing. How can you be someone who not only adapts to those changes, but sees them coming?
That's the challenge and the opportunity.
Yeah, it's about thinking beyond just doing the job every day and asking what's next. Like what new things are coming that could change how we get, ship, and sell all this stuff. Furniture, carpets, lighting, you name it.
And that's where being curious and staying informed comes in. Are you reading industry magazines, going to conferences, talking to other people in the business? The more you see and hear about new ideas, the better you'll be at spotting trends and maybe even becoming a leader yourself.
Exactly. You could be the one who figures out how to use 3D printing to make custom furniture when people order it, or comes up with some amazing new way to package carpets so they can be shipped safely anywhere. There's so many possibilities.
And even if you don't become the next big name in import-export, just having that mindset will make you more valuable to any company. Employers love people who can see challenges coming, adapt to change, and bring new ideas.
It's about showing them you're not just there to clock in and out. You're there to make a difference. So when you're getting ready for this interview, don't just think about getting the job. Think about what you want to achieve in this industry. What kind of mark do you want to leave?
That's a really good question. And it's something to start thinking about now, before you even go to the interview.
Because it's not just them looking at you. You're looking at them too. Do they have the same values as you? Will they help you grow? Will they give you the chance to really do your best work?
It's a two-way street. And if you go in with that attitude, you'll not only have a better chance of getting the job, but you'll also find a job that you really enjoy.
So go in there, be confident, Yeah. Be prepared and be yourself. Let your passion show, and I'm sure you'll impress them.
And remember, even if this isn't the perfect job, everything you've learned will help you in your career.
Exactly. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring the world of international trade. You never know what amazing opportunities are out there. Until next time.